big past few weeks here. Had a lot of stuff going on. Obviously I picked up a lot of stuff, so there's going to be a lot of stuff packed in here. So as you guys saw, there was a big fire in my area that got out of control really quickly. It took out like freeways, highways, a couple of small towns. It was insane. So that was kind of nuts dealing with here. The fire didn't reach my neighborhood area per se. It was on the other side of town, but the ash and stuff was raining down. So it was pretty crazy. But anyways, thanks to, of course, always my friends in the community, and just, you know what, just friends. At this point, it's just friends, because you guys, you know, help each other out in real life and everything. So thanks to my friends, I was able to freaking haul like a fiend this past couple weeks. So the biggest surprise probably was actually Josh Cheney from They're Not Dolls, boom, hitting me up saying that he found the Walgreens exclusive Punishers here in town at like a random Walgreens. I was like, what the heck? Really surprised. I was not expecting them for a while. So he grabbed them for me, and I decided, instead of waiting to meet up, I was like, you know what, I'm just going to go meet him tonight, whatever. So I decided to pick it up that night from him instead of waiting to meet up, because I was pretty excited. So me and my wife mobbed over there to go pick up Punisher. Really sick, you know. He comes with a lot of good accessories, except for that like riot control shotgun or whatever it's called, the white one. That's pretty weak. But he comes with some dope stuff, which led to a little bit of controversy. People were taking that and the one from Deadpool because it's the same model, and basically putting like a rocket or explosive on the front of it, kind of like how Deadpool comes with the boxing glove, which I have up here. And so anyways, the controversy is that I guess that's wrong. So I hit up Todd asking him about some mods and stuff, and he was letting me know that that was incorrect, because this is a newer type of rocket launcher. I'm not sure if that's the correct terminology. Basically, that this part right here, this upper half, is the launcher, and this tube houses the explosive. So this wouldn't, not only would this be incorrect, but it wouldn't work, because the explosive, you would have two explosives. You'd have one in the tube and one in front. And it needs to be run through this housing to be launched, you know? So, because I was putting different effects and stuff, and Todd was saying, made a lot of sense after he said it, you wouldn't want an explosion right in your face, you know, launching one of these. And I was like, well, that's a good point. So I drilled a hole in the back, so you have like an exhaust thing, so like when you shoot it, you know, it looks like it's coming out the back and being propelled out the front. And, you know, people were kind of just, no one was telling him he was wrong, but a few people were just kind of like, I don't really want to go so far to say it's like took offense to it, but they were just like, you know, like, why you gotta be so critical? But, you know, I mean, he's not wrong. It's like, it's good information. A lot of people don't know that he's actually an Army Ranger. No joke. So I listen to him when he tells me about rocket launchers. So I figured, you know what, that was good to know. So while I was talking to Josh, he also let me know that our Toys R Us earlier that week had gotten a new case of their exclusive 3-pack, the comic book figures. He lives, you know, he lives much closer to that area than I do, so I was like, you know what, we're already over here, screw it, let's go. So we went over to Toys R Us, and I was surprised. Normally they don't have a lot of stuff, and they were packed. They had like Venom, Black Panther. I mean, they probably had more than like 20, 30 Marvel Legends on the pegs, shelves, whatever. And so anyways, they did have the 3-pack, obviously, I got here. I had ordered a 3-pack online from someone because I wasn't sure if I'd be able to go over to Toys R Us to get one. And while I was there, I said, you know what, I'm already here, you know, we're deep in it. It's like Pineapple Express when they're running away and James Franco jumps in the dumpster, and Seth Rogen's like, dude, what are you doing? Let's keep running. He's like, no, let's get in the dumpster. He's like, why? He's like, dude, I'm already in the dumpster. I was already in the dumpster, so I was like, screw it. So I picked up another 3-pack because mine hadn't come in yet in the mail, which ended up working out anyways. So I could try out different Falcon mods. But yeah, this pack is sick. I was so excited for it for mostly Kate Bishop, but after getting them and like reading up on some more comics, like I'm currently reading All New, All Different Vision, and then I'm gonna start reading All New, All Different Avengers, which has them on a team with Miles and Kid Nova and stuff. And also Civil War 2. The Sam Cap tie-ins have actually been really good. They're a little heavy-handed with like their references to what's going on today with the police and that kind of stuff, but good book nonetheless, really good. And really interesting use of his powers, because he, you know, in the comics, Sam can like telepathically control birds and stuff, and there's a part where he was like getting mobbed, and he needed like just a second to regroup, so he had the birds build a nest around him that he kind of regrouped in and then burst out of. I thought that was cool. That was like some cool stuff I hadn't seen before. So speaking of mods, you can see I have two Sam Caps here. This one has like silver and red wings, and then this has much bigger, darker wings. So this is from the movie Walmart exclusive Falcon, which is over here. And these are actually from the Playmation figure, which when I had gotten this, I had incorrectly said Disney Infinity, and someone corrected me that it is Playmation, which I don't know, I don't play these games. But I got one, I picked up an extra one, I'll explain why. So basically, when I was trying to get the original wings off of this, they're pretty on there, okay? So I ended up having to just pry off the backpack and it was destroyed. And so I took the wings, which are on two pegs, so they can swivel on the pegs. So I took the wings off, cut the pegs off, what I do, drilled through them, and then screwed them into this, like two little screws. So the pegs are actually removable, but he has two pegs coming out of his back, and you can attach the wings on the pegs. So I was like, okay, that works. But someone had posted how they were able to get the backpack off, and I believe they actually used the peg from the shield he came with, and they cut the peg off. But I have some other materials that I think will work without having to sacrifice the shield. Basically, you just make a peg on the backpack if you can get off in one piece, and boom, peg's right on. So I think that'll be much better, so I got this extra one to try that out. And then these movie wings are much easier because they already have basically two pegs. So you just drill two peg holes, one on either side of the peg hole that he already has. Excuse me. So he'll have three peg holes in the back, and they don't mess with each other. You know, it doesn't affect the grip. Like having the peg holes for this backpack does not affect pegging in his shield. So it'll all still work. I really love these wings actually. I love the wingspan. I love that they're kind of reversible, where you just peg them in on the opposite side of the backpack. I think it was ingenious how they did the Red Wing drone, not just for the figure but for the movie. That was dope. It seems so simple now, but it's just something that I probably wouldn't have thought of if I was in that position of like, well, how do, you know, you can't talk to birds in the movie, so how do we substitute in Red Wing? You know, someone's like, hey, let's do a drone. And I was like, brilliant, you know. And so I have the deployed drone over here, and that was just a stroke of genius by somebody, you know, translating that into the movies without being too hokey. So talking about Movie Falcon, we have Movie Falcon over here, and then the Walmart exclusive Civil War movie Bucky. Now, again, thanks to my friends, I was able to get these because I have not found these in our area. They got scooped up the day they came out. Well, Punker Mike was mobbing around his area, and he found a ton of them. So he grabbed me one of each and shipped those out with the quickness, so much appreciated. I gotta say, Falcon is dope. I mean, I was just going on about the backpack. That thing's sick. Bucky is like close to being dope. He, first of all, this whole thing like where he has on his the back of his ab crunch is ridiculous. It looks like they didn't even finish like sculpting it digitally. They just sculpted the front, or I mean not the front, but the face of the back, and didn't bother doing the interior. So when you put it forward, it looks weird. And then his arm, which one of these? The regular arm doesn't go all the way down. But other than that, you know, it's really dope. And the paint on the face, I gotta say, is probably one of the best male heads from Hasbro. Like how they've stepped their game up with the females, like with the lip gloss and different stuff, like with Kitty Pryde, Kate Bishop, Rogue, Phoenix, stuff like that. I think Bucky represents a step up in the male figures. His face paint, I just think, is so dope. So he's an okay figure. I think he's better than the Winter Soldier figure we got from the Winter Soldier movie line, but far from perfect, you know. So talking to Punker Mike, I should probably mention that he's going to be Grandmaster Mike soon. He's been watching The Get Down. I recently finished it because of him, and it's sick. It's about like the late 70s in the Bronx and the birth of hip-hop and graffiti and some other stuff. And it's really cool. If you like hip-hop, dancing, singing, or even just kind of cultural pieces, really great show. You guys should really check it out. So getting back to all this hauling I've been doing, breaking away from what I've usually done, I finally committed to picking up some of the DC icons. I got them on sale on Amazon. That's kind of what I've been waiting for. So I really mostly wanted Harley because I think she just looks great. And, you know, this is mostly my friend Deontay's fault because a couple years ago we were at WonderCon and he really wanted the DCUC Harley Quinn. And we ended up finding one for him, mint on card, good price, so he got it. And when we came back, we noticed that the paint was kind of messed up. So he asked me, you know, while he was here, like, hey, can you just touch it up real quick before I go? And I said, yeah, no problem. So popped the head off, painted it, you know, fixed it up. And just handling the figure, I was like, man, this Harley Quinn is dope. Like, I want a Harley Quinn. And so eventually when the Icons one came out, I was hesitant because the Icons are kind of weak. But she's been getting good reviews and stuff, so I picked her up, and I gotta say, she's really dope. She is an awesome figure. Of course, just missing a thigh swivel, but really fun, looks great, comes with some great accessories. And I couldn't just get her by herself, because then, you know, what am I going to do with that? So I ended up picking up the Batman on sale. Very weak figure. I mean, if anything, DC Icons should get a prize for deception, or the illusion that these things have articulation. Because if you look at them, if you look at the joints, even in person, you know, you're eyeballing these in the package, you just think like, wow, these things look amazing. Like, they look like they can just move like no other. And they can't. They just can't. Just the way that things are put together and cut, they just don't move a lot. And it's crazy. The ab crunch, the diaphragm joint, they used a barbell peg in the neck instead of a disc hinge. It's just weird. It's really weird because they look like they would be so good, but they're just not. So anyways, this Batman, I figured, you know what, he's kind of a bum figure anyway, he's just to go with my Harley. So I ended up doing, I thought it was my version of Billy's mod, but after I did it and I messaged him, it ended up being relatively the same process. So basically I added thigh swivels to my Batman, which did help a lot. And I also kind of hollowed out the sockets within the head and the neck so that it still stays on, but now he can kind of do this. But I would recommend, if you're going to get this and you want that done, just save yourself the hassle because it's such a pain in the butt to do that whole thing. Just hit up Billy. Go to Bill Maru, Toycanics, BillMaru.com, I believe. I'm not exactly sure where he takes his commission orders, but basically, if you want this done to any of your DC figures, I think he's doing it to any DC figure. Hit him up, have him do it. He always does quality work. I've had him fix several things in the past. Great guy, great service. So if you're really dead set on getting these icons, budget so that you can get them on sale and then put a little bit of money into them, send them to Billy, and have him make them into the figures that they should have been. Also, speaking of basically jacking ideas from Billy, I did this a while ago and never got a chance to showcase it. So Billy had originally done this with a few different cases. I believe he first did it with the Revel Mini Snake, or I don't know, something, those little figures, because he wanted a traveling case. And I was like, man, that is a smart idea. You know, Billy's just full of those. So I ended up doing something similar. I got this at Walmart. I believe it was like a fishing type of case. Not sure. And again, I would highly recommend, if you want something like this, hit up Billy and see if he's willing to make it. Because this was such a pain in the butt to do. Especially, I probably did this the hardest way you could possibly do, okay? So when you buy these, you open them and they're full. They don't have this foam in here. They have like this plastic. This one's removable, but the rest of them are not. And if you could see these kind of jacked up lines, this is from like similar things like this that were not removable. They were molded into this plastic. And this is hard, like almost like acrylic type plastic, okay? So what I did is basically just heated this up, and I did this repeatedly. I would heat it until it was kind of soft and take an X-Acto blade and then cut the parts out, and then once the guts of it were out, I kind of cleaned it up. I didn't ever sand it because once you put the foam in, you don't really even see it anyways. But that's like trying to cut your grass with a spoon, you know. It's just, can you do it? Probably, but it's not recommended, okay? So again, hit up Billy, see if he's doing anything like this. Because I did this one case, and this was hard enough, but he's done a couple different types of cases, which look really good. And there's also different kinds of foam you can go with. So this is just like Eva foam, or like really thin, like kind of craft foam. And you just cut it to shape, put it in there. Now this is like the standard. Like you could put basically any figure in this, it'll fit, it'll you know, hold it well. But let's say you have smaller intricate pieces or certain types of figures that are bouncing around. You can even get like, I don't know what it's called, but that kind of like foam, you know, where you can cut the shape out and put them in there. But this is double-sided with clips. And then I also left this, what do you call this? Like a hook on, a latch, just in case I ever wanted to attach it to something. So I was actually practicing and carrying around Batman and Harley in this, because you can just have one on each side and all their accessories down here. Boom, good to go. So, big thanks to Billy for always inspiring. Not to be lost in all the commotion, I also did finally get original Stormtroopers from Al Figures. Thank you. Appreciate it. I was looking for these because I never picked any up, and I always thought they would be available, basically, and they weren't. I mean, the cheapest ones I could find were like $30 each, and when you want an army build, that's a lot, you know. It's tough to army build something over $20 each, realistically. So Al was able to hook me up with 2 of them, and I was excited to get these because I got into Star Wars Rebels. I was kind of tiptoeing in the first season, like, this show's whatever. I had watched Clone Wars and liked it towards the end, so I got into Rebels, but Rebels Season 2 is where it really like kicked off, and I was like, dang, this show's tight. So I got Stormtroopers right here, you know, questioning Kanan about what he's doing, and so these are like essential. It's not just original trilogy anymore. These Stormtroopers are for original trilogy. You got Star Wars Rebels, soon to be Rogue One, and of course expanded universe stuff, which, you know, flip-flops on what's canon and what's not. But basically, original Stormtroopers are here to stay forever. And I think the ACBA web shop is going to carry those soon too. I hope they actually re-release them for Rogue One, because that would be sick. Another chance to army build them at retail. And whoever is cutting these Star Wars trailers these days needs a big pay raise, because the Force Awakens trailers were sick, and Rogue One, I didn't care about Rogue One. You know, when they announced it, I was like, whatever. Like, we know what happened. You know, it's the beginning of Episode 4 is the end of Rogue One. And but then after seeing the first trailer, I was like, okay, cool. Then I saw the behind the scenes thing, and I saw the second trailer, and I was sold. Like, I'm so pumped for that movie. You know, I didn't really go hard in Star Wars merchandise for the other stuff or anything. But I think I'll probably end up checking out Rogue One on Force Friday and see what they got going on, you know. Just to kind of get a good sense of what kind of stuff they're putting out, you know. Either way, may the Force be with us all and our wallets as Hasbro continues to hammer down on us relentlessly. I have good news that I finally completed another long-term project of mine, which I'll explain in a clip in a second, but I finally have a cloth, posable, removable cape on Thor, and I think it just helps this figure so much. So, take it away. So 5 attempts later, and I think I'm finally happy with this cape. I took the discs off of the retail cape so it would match the discs on the torso, and then I put magnets on the bottom and magnets in the figure so it can attach to the figure and be removed easily, but they're strong magnets so it won't fall off or shift or anything. And I hemmed the sides so I could run wire through it because I wanted the wire to be removable so it could hang or it could be posed. And it's just bendy wire, the same that I use for Spider-Man webs, so it's not going to break, you know, moving it back and forth. They're insulated so they'll hold together really well. And the reason this took so many tries was basically finding the right kind of fabric. I tried bandana cloth from Hobby Lobby, and it was too thin and too rigid. And I tried some 4-way stretch lycra, which was very nice, but it was just a little bit too heavy, and it didn't hang correctly and move correctly. So in the end, I just had to basically give up, and then I ordered a custom cloak that was made out of like a soft microfiber material, and I took that apart and then repurposed it and into shape, and then, you know, hemmed it up and did all this. So this cloth will hang correctly, and then also when you pose it, it's very light and soft, so it'll pose very well. You can manipulate it. And I also, after I did that, I had the idea to free up some of this space, because there's this extra flashing and stuff that I just cut off and separated some of these parts so his legs can move better. You know, it's just been a process making this figure as good as it can be. I really like this figure, and I think it's probably the most articulated Thor figure we've gotten from Marvel Legends, so I've just been trying to repurpose it into my main Thor figure. You know, speaking of figures that need a lot of work, these Magic the Gathering figures are trash. This is like the only one that hasn't fallen apart on me, and that's because I've barely used her like 2 times. The rest of them, all the rubber falls off, the paint chips, the plastic breaks, the joints fall apart. Even for $4.99, I would think twice about picking them up at Ross. They're just horrible. They look good, they make good props if you have them in the background, like kind of have her here, like she's binding the Enchantress, but they make horrible figures. So, you know. So in honor of breaking my mold and picking up these DC Icon figures, this episode's recommended reading is going to be focused on Batman. Okay, so I decided when I was going through my Batman books to focus more on the iconography and mythos of Batman in comics versus his typical action type stories, or about, you know, him training, or about his mentality of being more than a man and stuff like that. You know, I think that's just overblown. Anybody who sees the movies, you get the gist of it. And I think something that DC does really well in terms of comics is their one-off stories or their graphic novels. You know, that's how I mostly read DC, is I pick up the graphic novels of stuff that ends up just being amazing. In fact, most of my graphic novels are actually from DC. Most of my monthly comics are from Marvel, which I think they do better in that regard. But anyways, so here, first up, we have a classic, Batman Vampire. Okay, so this is actually, this graphic novel is a collection of 3 short stories, or miniseries rather, that came out a long time ago, and they were recollected in this when they were doing the countdown to 52, and I believe, was that leading to Final Crisis? Whatever crisis had Monarch in it. And so they recollected this, and these are amazing, okay? Because something that should have been obvious is Batman, vampires. I mean, they just go together, right? You know, that just sounds like a sick premise. And so this is, it was a one-off story that they ended up making an alternate universe like they do with everything. Basically, the first story is about Batman fighting Dracula. The second story is about Batman becoming a vampire but still being a hero. And the third story is basically about Batman going full-blown vampire. And this is really great because it doesn't focus too much on all this groundedness of Batman that has just been hammered into us from the movies and such. This is really just a comic. You know, it is a comic book in all sense of the term. And I love it, and especially the artwork by Kelly Jones. He's become one of my favorite Batman artists. It's just so cool, you know? It's a comic book. You open it up, and what's it look like? A comic book. Now, something though that's kind of weird about Kelly Jones, which some people don't like, is his anatomy's kind of wonky. You know, certain things are exaggerated or extended. Like Batman with his cape on just looks like this huge, flowing, like Spawn almost, you know. And that can be a bit much for some people, but I love it. And if you find yourself also loving Kelly Jones' artwork and this type of story, you're also going to want to check out Batman Gotham After Midnight, which is another short story, or miniseries. Basically just focusing on Batman dealing with this new character who popped up in Gotham, who is ripping out people's hearts in the middle of the night. The story itself is kind of, it's okay. But really the artwork here is what shines. And what's great too is if you get this graphic novel version, Kelly Jones actually included some sketches in the back which are amazing. These look like they were originally colored with maybe like colored pencil or something. But here we have a nice Batman pinup piece where you can see what I was saying about the cape just flowing everywhere. We got some studies of some other characters and his take on it. This one in particular I think is really sick. This Man-Bat one right here. Very cool. So if you find yourself a fan of Kelly Jones art and these weird kind of quirky Batman stories, be sure to check out Gotham After Midnight as well. So the thing with Batman graphic novels is they are very much a rabbit hole. You can just chase these stories down and down and down forever. So I'm just going to quickly mention these stories which, if you find yourself really liking the psychology of Batman and more of what his iconography represents to the character and in terms of the idea of him, I would highly recommend these books. We have Batman Arkham Asylum, A Serious House on Serious Earth. And I believe this is the 15th anniversary edition, where you get the first half of the book is the actual story, and the second half is the thumbnails and the script for the story. So this is very much a psychological Batman story, and the artwork in this is like no other you're going to find, okay? It's very painterly, very artistic, very crazy. And these last two go hand in hand. We have Joker by Brian Azzarello and Lee Bermejo. I'm probably saying that wrong. If you have not heard of this story, do yourself a favor, don't look it up. Don't read about it, nothing. Just pick this up and read it, and you will enjoy it so much more. Because this takes a step back and puts you in the perspective of a normal person. If you were just a normal person in Gotham, caught up in the Joker or Batman stuff, and how crazy this stuff would be to a regular person, and how like twisted these people are, even Batman himself, great. And of course the artwork is amazing in these. Side note, the Joker in these stories looks a lot like Heath Ledger Joker, but these were actually done before Dark Knight was made. So that is a pure coincidence. But if you like the look of that Joker, then you'll like that one even more. This one's not as intense as Joker, but it's also done by Lee Bermejo. And it's Batman Noel. Similar type of story, but not so much grounded on a regular person, but more like a family and then Batman's point of view. And this is just about Christmas time with Batman chasing down some villains, and Superman makes a guest appearance. Basically, read Joker. If you like that, read Noel. I wouldn't recommend reading Noel by itself, whatever. It's, If you like this, further reading, right? Now last, but definitely not least, if you didn't read any of this and you just read Batman Vampire and you liked it, or you liked the idea of it, check out the animated movie, The Batman vs. Dracula. This is from the series, The Batman, which had a very interesting art style in of itself. But you can pick this up super cheap. I think you can get this like $5 now. Great movie. Great movie. I'm not even sure the rating on this, because, not rated, because it is like a, you could argue like a kid's cartoon movie, but there's some crazy scenes in here. Like when Batman's fighting, I don't want to spoil anything, but he's fighting a vampire in a blood bank, and he kicks over one of the, like the columns of blood vials, and it just shatters, and there's this sick scene of like blood just raining down. Kind of like in Blade 1 when they're at the blood rave, and it just starts spraying and coating everything. This is great if you're all in for the Batman vampire analogies. Awesome movie. Alright, that's going to wrap it up for this one. I tried to fit all this stuff in kind of quickly into this episode, so I apologize if there's something you wanted to see more of that I glanced over. Just comment below and let me know if you want me to go back and talk about something more, like show off some more Punisher stuff. Hopefully, if I can get some books in with the help of Brandon Deichler, I can do some Kate Bishop Hawkeye stuff, because I want to catch up on her runs with Hawkeye. because those comics look amazing. Also, how I mentioned I'm reading the Vision comics. Hopefully I can revisit that because I've been kit bashing a Scarlet Witch together with a cloth cloak, kind of like Thor, and then swapped out feet and some other stuff. So depending on how that story goes, if it inspires me, then I'll do some more Vision stuff. But anyways, let me know if you guys like this format versus the regular format. I kind of put this set together. It feels nice. I think it looks nice on camera, but if you guys don't like just basically me sitting here talking at you, let me know and I'll mix it back up again. Alright. You see Mrs. Doubtfire when Robin Williams walks into that set where they have all the dinosaurs on the table and he's just looking around the TV set like, wow, this is cool, and he starts playing with the dinosaurs and he gets busted. That's what it kind of feels like sitting here.